Hey everyone, Christina Simmons with Say Yes to Holiness here, and I am back. It has been 3 weeks, almost a month actually, of Tuesdays of where I have been unavailable. Why? Because I was on pilgrimage. Now, a lot of people might ask the question, and that was part of why I kind of put the title today for Why Make a Pilgrimage. And the whole reason to make a pilgrimage and not go on vacation is because a pilgrimage is about being intentional, about getting away, setting things aside, and really going deep with what is it that I need? What is it that God is calling me to? A vacation is great, and we need those things. So, like later this summer, we're going to get together with family. We're going to go and to down to Mexico City and make a semi-pilgrimage down to see Our Lady of Guadalupe. But the important thing is that vacations are good. We need to get away. We need to be intentional about spending time. But a pilgrimage is about really spending time with yourself. And so often, a pilgrimage, you can almost say, is like an extended retreat, except a pilgrimage is a going to a particular location. Usually, it has to do with some importance, religious importance, but it could be making a pilgrimage to a particular location or site that has of great meaning or value for you. But almost invariably, a pilgrimage is about going to a religious site and really diving deep into what might have occurred there or what it's symbolic of, or for you, or an opportunity for you to go deeper as well. One of the biggest things about going on pilgrimage was this whole idea, and I pulled out my Spartan t-shirt today, and you might be going, Spartan? But that was probably one of the big lessons that became apparent when I was on pilgrimage with my husband, and we had this discussion, and it was just the fact of you don't need a lot. When you go and so just a little backstory for anyone who might not know. My husband Paul and I, we went and biked, didn't walk, we biked the Camino, El Camino in Spain. We began in Ponferrada in order to get your Compostela, which is your official certificate for having completed enough of the Camino that you can receive a plenary indulgence if you fulfill all the requirements as is normal, going to confession and mass, praying for the intentions of the Pope, and also to be doing something that has been viewed as this is sacrifice. So making the Camino, to walk the Camino or bike the Camino, is something that you can receive a plenary indulgence. So we went and we began in Ponferrada, which is more than 220 kilometers, so that's over 120 miles away from Santiago de Compostela, and which is where the Cathedral of San Sebastian, St. James the Apostle, is. So you make pilgrimage. You begin and then you make pilgrimage to Santiago. Now there's many, many different routes. We went along and biked along the Camino Frances. The Camino Frances is one of the oldest of the pilgrimage routes, but there are a number of them. The Camino Primitivo, the Camino Portuguese, so I think there's like 7 or 8 different ones, but the Camino Frances is probably the most familiar for people, in the sense of knowing anything about the Camino. So we went and we did this. We began on May 26th. We departed on May 25th. And of course, you get there and it's the next day. And then we began our Camino, and we completed it on this last Saturday on June 10th. And so it was something that was truly beautiful. I'll be continuing to reflect upon that. I got a podcast that I'm going to be doing, or probably a couple of podcasts in the next month. This next week I'll do one, and then another one as well, and also be getting out some of my one-on-one conversations that I had done prior to leaving but I had not published yet. So keep an eye for those. But what was one of the things that I learned on the Camino, and one of the biggest things was simplicity. And we don't need all the stuff that we think we need. And this has been something for me on a personal level that I've had to come back to time in different ways. And it goes back to trust. It goes back to knowing that God will provide exactly what you need, and not necessarily what you want. And that was kind of a touchstone for us. Not what you need, but not what you want, but what you need is what God did for us throughout the Camino. So the experience that we received, the weather, the people that we encountered and we met and journeyed with, all of it was what we needed, not necessarily what we wanted or what we thought was going to happen. So along the way, again, going back to that first point, we realize that we don't need as much that we think we do, because we went very simple. We just went with 2 sets of biking clothes, and then bare minimum in the sense of 1 pair of pants and another t-shirt, and we picked up a few commemorative t-shirts and those kind of things as we were there. But the fact is that we realized we got too much stuff, and it's stuff that has been in the attic, or it's stuff that's in our garage, or it's stuff that's in our closet. So one of the intentional things that we are doing is we're coming back and we're going through stuff and getting rid of it, and giving it to people who can use it. So if we're not using it, somebody else can. And that's one of probably the biggest things about life on the Camino, is that people share. It's about, oh, I've got this here, you can use it, I'm not using it. And about setting those things aside that are holding us back from being able to continue the journey. I shared a blog post each and every day. You can check out the Say Yes to Holiness blog on WordPress. And, so go and check that out, because each day for the 18 days that we were gone, I did my reflections. I shared, pictures and about the journey and what was going on. So if you're interested. But one of the things I shared yesterday was something that we came to discover in Santiago, and it was in the Pilgrim Chapel. That was where you go and get your Compostela. They have a pilgrim chapel, beautiful. And one of the things that they had was a presentation. It was just beautiful music, and it was just reflection questions. And one of the things they had was someone to put together what's known as the Beatitudes of the Pilgrim. And one of the biggest things is that it really reflected upon what were kind of the themes, or what were the principles of walking the Camino. And I shared those yesterday in that blog post. But the biggest thing, and it ties into this whole simplicity, and it's about, blessed are you, pilgrim, if your knapsack is emptying of things, and your heart does not know where to hang up so many feelings and emotions. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway I want for you today. Why make a pilgrimage? Make a pilgrimage so you can rediscover, because we know what matters, but to rediscover what your priorities are and what truly matters in life. Because the Camino is not just something that you do, but it's rather something that you live. Jesus is the way and the truth and the life. And for those of us who make the Camino for religious reasons, as well as for other reasons, the reality is that we learn and we remember and we rediscover that the Camino is about a way of life. And why make a pilgrimage? Make a pilgrimage in order to be able to rediscover the way that we have been called to live, to discover the way, who is the truth, and who is life itself. This is why we make a pilgrimage. We make a pilgrimage so that we can set aside all the stuff that goes on, all those distractions. And that's another part of the Camino, is just the quiet. And it was so beautiful to experience that quiet and to only really engage in conversation. Of course, if you go into a store or restaurant or whatever, it was fascinating to us just how popular American music is. Everything from the 50s all the way up to present day. And you would hear American music, and it would be, some of it would be done with Spanish lyrics, redoing the lyrics, but the music was there. So there was a familiarity. But for the most part, it was quiet. And if we know anything, it's that in the silence is when we will find God, because God is in that quiet. So why make that pilgrimage? So that you can rediscover your priorities, what truly matters, and then to be able to live them, and then be able to come home and be able to begin to live them out again, or for the first time in your life. So if you haven't made a pilgrimage before, I invite you to consider doing so this summer. It doesn't have to be like going to Spain and spending 3 weeks as we did, but rather it could be something simple, just finding a church or a special religious site or something that's nearby. And you can just drive and you can go and you can spend time. Spend at least an afternoon, if not an entire day or a weekend, and go and disconnect. Not just go on retreat, but rather disconnect. And in the process, enter into the relationship with those who God has crossed your path. And in the process, you're going to find God in a whole different way. So, why make a pilgrimage? So many different reasons. But the primary one is so that you can really rediscover the priorities of life and rediscover the one who is life itself. Hope this has served you. It's so good to be back, and look for lots and lots more stuff in the weeks ahead as I get back into doing a podcast every week and a YouTube weekly live show, and also spending time. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing and keep an eye out for in the next few weeks is that I'm going to be doing kind of an intensive retreat in where I'm going to kind of review how can you live the Camino? I'll just keep that theme going. There's a reason why God had us do the Camino this year, and I'll just kind of keep that theme going. But how can you live out the Camino in your day-to-day life? And that's what Say Yes is all about. Say Yes to Holiness is all about living the Camino principles, the principles of Beatitudes, of what it is that Jesus has taught us, so that we can come to be in transformative union with Him, and we can be with Him forever. God bless everybody. Take care.